Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
This Monday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy. Still looking at the change for July 14th to the Alaska Aviation Weather Unit's webpage, and take the time to explore new links, maps for PIREPs and TAFs, and other forecasts before you need them. And as always, we're working to improve the site with your suggestions. Your emails are greatly appreciated. And satellite imagery today showing a couple of bands of moisture here coming across, one breaking up as it pushes northeastward, northwest flow kind of shearing it apart with the main push going up to the north. There's actually a warm front here and another warm front back to the southwest, bringing rain, clouds, fog, low flying conditions into the western and then central Aleutians to about Adak, and then a break right through here, and then picking up some mostly clouds there with a little bit of fog up toward the Pribilofs, main rain-producing clouds, and drizzle stuff back off to the northwest. Otherwise, looked like it was breaking out here along the west coast later today, right up across Seward Peninsula, some sunshine, and the Yukon Delta and Nunivak Island as well. Then back into the clouds in this area, moisture streaming westward. Kind of linking up here, getting caught up in that flow, so kind of just building right through here. And so rain falling today from Bristol Bay, actually from Kodiak Island, northeastward Bristol Bay, and then across the southwest interior. Back to the north, the moisture again that came across last night across southern Alaska, pushing off to the east, breaking out to showers, but a lot of clouds left behind. Not much in the way of any sunshine here across southern Alaska. Get into some breaks up there north of the Alaska Range around Fairbanks where the sun came out, and that's where you had the heating, and that's where you had most of the thunderstorms today, right in this area of clouds right through here and a little bit up through there as well, Arctic Village back down to the southeast, and rolling that through again. This moisture here continues to stream southwestward in across the southeast Copper River Basin there into Prince William Sound, a break right across the northern panhandle, and another shower band coming in mostly across the central part of the southeast coast there with lighter, more scattered showers either to the south or to the north, but looks like more moving in toward Dixon Entrance there late this afternoon. On the chart, there's the trough with that, and again, mostly central and southern areas. Central areas today, and then that's going to increase probably right now on into the evening for the on down Prince of Wales Island into Dixon Entrance, and again more scattered up to the north, and really not much of anything, just cloudy skies along the North Gulf Coast, Prince William Sound, and into the Copper River Basin. Our showers here extending down to Kodiak Island there. That band's actually going to push off to the southwest this evening, and got some showers up over the southwest interior today, as I mentioned. Really, actually a little farther to the south there, I know some rainfall or echoes in the radar there all the way down the Kilbrook Mountains. And then northward, thunderstorms mostly concentrated right up through here from the White Mountains back to the northwest. And then again over in this area into Canada, much more scattered and isolated off to the west and south. And then sunshine here from the central interior back to the west into the Seward Peninsula, had some areas of sun, as well as the Noatak Valley. Kind of some clouds there, but the western north slope looking really good. Areas of fog along the Arctic coast with high pressure settled in over the area there, just along the coastline at 1,017 millibars. Some of the shower activity coming across the north slope there and getting out to the all the way out to the coast, and that'll continue this evening. Here's a warm front, very weak trailing edge here coming down, just dragging across the Pribilofs earlier. And again, most of the rain producing stuff back to the northwest with that as it continues off to the north. And got some breaks here right through there ahead of the next batch of moisture with that next warm front coming northward there, and we'll see for tonight that continues to push northward, gets north of the western Aleutians now, so the rain should end, just low clouds and fog left behind, but more showers poised to move in, and the rain now spreads across AKwx. Winds become south-southeast, but don't increase all that much, and high pressure southeast Bering Sea here keeps it dry, and winds light with just low clouds and fog. Pretty widespread across the entire area here from the Alaska Peninsula, maybe some clearing in the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula areas, but northward, low clouds and fog through the Bering Strait, Chukchi Sea, and then again areas of the Arctic coast. We've got some showers again lifting northward and dissipating there, but getting all the way out to the coastline and beyond. Thunderstorms diminishing later this evening, later tonight here over the eastern interior. Could see some all the way down maybe into the northern Kuskokwim Valley or along the western Alaska Range areas, just isolated to scattered. Otherwise, still a chance of showers here. South central Alaska, Kenai Peninsula, maybe up into the Matanuska Valley, possibly the Susitna Valley, but amounts are going to be a lot lighter than what they've been the last couple of nights here coming across southern Alaska. Still some showers there in the Copper River Basin, and no change in the pattern here. Another trough coming in keeps it showery and wet over the southeast coast, or just some areas you'll see just kind of like a flat out light rain going on, but some clearing. Breaks are starting to show up off the coast. There's still another couple of troughs out there to the southwest. And looking at tomorrow for Tuesday, one surge moves inland, so going to start breaking out in the afternoon. Not as many showers tomorrow, a little bit better, less in the way of rainfall, possibly some clearing showing up, but don't count on it. Anyway, if the eastern Gulf Coast Yakutat, kind of under the influence of that trough axis here, which goes back up and extends into that 1,010 millibar low up there near around the Eagle area. And that's where the convection will be again tomorrow over the central Tanana Valley, eastward into Canada, extending north just about out to the eastern Arctic coast there. So the Barter Island, Kaktovik, chance of a thunderstorm, possibly. Arctic Village, same thing. And just to the west, clearing out pretty nicely there. North Slope, Brooks Range, mostly sunny conditions, warmer temperatures here over the western interior, all dry. Chance of thunderstorms, possibly western Alaska Range around Denali, and that's about it. Should be a dry day south central Alaska, right up into the Susitna and Matanuska valleys, as well as Prince William Sound, and most of the Copper River Basin as well. Maybe a few more clouds over there, but definitely more sunshine down across Kodiak Island. Dry conditions, high pressure now out here to the west, taking over the western interior, extending northward there to just off the Arctic coast, and the remnants of that warm front bringing a chance of drizzle, fog, very light rain there to the western Seward Peninsula, possibly as far east as I'll say Nome, but definitely for the Bering Strait. IFR tomorrow at times, maybe even low IFR, and then a break, and then that next front pushing northward and eastward. Pretty narrow band of precipitation with that. So rain changing to showers or ending completely there for Adak and beginning to increase there for Nikolsky late tomorrow afternoon. Probably won't get into there until evening. Just a weak trailing edge at that. Otherwise, high pressure holding over Bristol Bay, about 1,024 millibars. Light winds, so extensive areas of low clouds and fog along the coast and over the open water areas. And then other troughs swinging up to the western Aleutians for more rain. And for Wednesday, we'll see it's a dry day here for the Panhandle, and mostly sunny skies take over. Mostly sunny, much warmer temperatures in the 70s and 80s here overall at interior Alaska, up to about the Brooks Range. North of the mountains, though, a lot of moisture streaming around the upper level high that's developing over the interior. You can see here quite a southerly flow along a rather active cold front here coming eastward, and pretty good gradient with that. So we've got 30 knot winds in the marine forecast here from the eastern Aleutians right up close to the coast, all the way up to about St. Lawrence Island, and increase in those southwest winds also for the, say, Kivalina, Point Hope, Cape Lisburne area, all the way to Point Lay, and then dropping lane back down again. And definitely, though, a lot of light rain and clouds coming in north of the Brooks Range to at least the central Arctic coast, kind of iffy as to how far east that precipitation will actually reach. But definitely the interior, dry, sunny, warmer, possibly some scattered, isolated thunderstorms developing over the Alaska range here. I don't think they'll be over the Talkeetnas and maybe off in the east. That's about it as far as weather goes, other than just sunny, warm conditions. That front extending south here to the eastern Aleutians, the trough bringing more showers into the central areas and the Pribilofs back to the northwest, and then drying out farther to the west. And moving on to temperatures this afternoon for the Panhandle, mostly or all in the 50s, lower to upper with 57 there at Stewart, 61 though at Skagway, and a 55 at Juneau, Petersburg, and Yakutat, 56 at Cordova, 60 degrees there, Gulkana, Copper River Basin, Homer up to 61, about the same in Seldovia, 54 degrees there in Kodiak, Kenai 55, Palmer 56, and a 58 at Talkeetna. All these temperatures going up over the next couple of days. Upper 60s there at Fairbanks and 65 at Delta, but Eagle 76 degrees and near 80 at Tanana this afternoon with 66 at McGrath. Farther north 78, warm afternoon at Bettles, 69 over at Arctic Village, 61 Arctic Village, 69 over at Fort Yukon. Anaktuvuk 59, and for the Arctic coast there, lower to mid 40s with, see that's Dead Horse at 46 this afternoon, and into the 50s there, 56 at Etrusuk, and lower 50s on down the coastline. 56 also at Buckland with 74 in Ambler, 50 degrees Nome, 47 Savunga, and 50s here across the southwest interior, mid to upper, and lower 50s along the coast. Near 50 for the Pribilofs, mid 50s there, 55 degrees in Adak, 46 Shimia, and a 49 degree reading on Alaska. Otherwise 50s for the Alaska Peninsula and 60s for Bristol Bay. Lows for tonight in the upper 40s to lower 50s for the Panhandle and 40s for the Copper River Basin, mostly around 50 for south central Alaska, give or take there. And temperatures pretty mild, 60 degrees, the forecast low for the greater Fairbanks area tonight. With mid-50s there from the upper Yukon Valley down in toward McGrath and Nikolai, and then falling back into the mid-40s out toward the coast and the Aleutians and the Bering Sea. Mid to upper 30s for the eastern central Arctic coast. Highs tomorrow, 70 to 81 or 82 here, anywhere over the interior from about the Koyukuk, Tanana Valley eastward. And of course, or northeastward, depends how much cloudiness and afternoon thunderstorms develop there. Will kind of cap those tides off tomorrow in those areas. Copper River Basin into the lower 70s, 50s again for the Panhandle, 60s, lower 70s now, the Susitna Valley, forecast almost into the mid 70s for tomorrow afternoon there around Talkeetna, upper 50s Alaska Peninsula, 50s out over all of the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Flying weather tomorrow, we've got some IFR here from Kachemak Bay, Iliamna, Lake Iliamna, down along the north side or the east or the west side of the Aleutian Range. And marginal VFR becomes IFR from the Pribilofs northward through the Bering Strait, covering the Arctic coast. And some IFR left over here over the southern Panhandle toward the border. Lots of IFR out west. Pushes eastward, not quite making it to the Pribilofs, but does make it to the eastern Aleutians. Another band right through here off the coast of St. Lawrence Island. And low clouds and fog burning off the western Arctic coast tomorrow. VFR, all of the interior, till you get down here to the eastern North Gulf Coast. Marginal for the Panhandle. Passes, Anaktuvuk and Adigan, both good VFR tomorrow. Ceilings visibility is unlimited there, and yeah, ceilings and visibility is unlimited for Lake Clark and Merrill. Rainy also could become marginal possibly early on, but then becoming VFR and just a risk of an afternoon thunderstorm. For windy, VFR. Isabel, same forecast. Mentasta starting out marginal, becoming VFR. Tanita, VFR, and Portage also looking really good. Marginal VFR at least for another day here. One more day and that's about it, at least for part of the day tomorrow for Chilkoot and White. And for the freezing levels, kind of a big pool of cooler air here, 6,000 feet out over the Pacific, up to the Panhandle, rising up to 10,000 feet over the east central interior areas. So some pretty good warm air aloft tomorrow or late tonight into tomorrow. And much warmer out here over the Bering Sea. Really high freezing levels now coming into the southern Bering Central Aleutians up to 14,000 feet near Adak. Freezing or icing above 10,000 feet here west of the Pribilofs southward, and even higher out over the western Aleutians, go 12,000 feet there. And above 10,000 feet over the eastern interior, coming down about 7,000 for the Bering Strait. So if you keep under these, you won't even have to worry about it at all if you keep under those heights. And for the jet stream, upper level high now building in or developing over the interior. It's kind of sort of been there off and on, but getting a little stronger, ridging here out over the Bering Sea, but weak flow over the top of that, and then a weak trough affecting the western Arctic coast. Otherwise, 9,000 feet looking like this, ridging right up into the interior here, developing offshore flow, but very weak offshore flow, just 5 to 15 knots all through the interior, right up to the Arctic coast. Same thing here with the Panhandle, light variable winds. Stronger winds out here, southerlies 20 to 35 knots coming eastward across the Bering Sea. And for 3,000 feet, that band tomorrow south, 30 to 35 knots, or 25 to 35 pushes eastward the next day, a little farther east. And high pressure, light variable winds tomorrow, all of the interior from the Arctic coast into the Gulf of Alaska and eastward across the Panhandle. So turbulence-wise, maybe extreme eastern Arctic coast might pick up a little bit of light chop. And also from Point Hope, Cape Lisburne, down to St. Lawrence Island. Maybe some light stuff here out over areas of the Aleutians and the Pribilofs, all below about 4,000 feet. And after the break, I'll be back with the marine forecasts.
When approaching Skagway, be alert for tour operators in the area and for helicopter traffic departing and arriving at Skagway. The traffic pattern is at 1,000 feet with right-hand traffic for runway 19 to avoid the town of Skagway. It will appear that the pattern is close to the mountain, and it is. You will find that you are quite close to the trees on the downwind. A close-in base turn around the water tanks to almost immediate final is needed to avoid overshooting the final approach. This is a tight, narrow canyon that consistently generates turbulent winds in the pattern and on the runway. Be aware that there is a bridge with automobile and truck traffic at the end of the final approach end for runway 19. The bridge is used as a final reporting point. There's a school to the left of the runway just beyond the bridge that must not be overflown. Since the runway is narrow and 3,700 feet long, it gives the appearance that you must land on the approach end numbers in order to stop by the end of the runway. Touching down in the first third of the runway is paramount. Also, be alert to the possibility of variable winds on the runway. Tour operations generated by the cruise ship industry in the summer are extremely busy conducting glacier tours. Multiple flights depart and arrive at the same time, making pattern entry awkward. Good communications are the key to safe entry as well as departure. After landing, aircraft taxi off to the side of the runway and wait for other landing aircraft to taxi off before taxiing back to parking. Be aware that several aircraft are apt to be back taxiing to parking areas at one time. So it's important to be especially careful to report your position in the pattern and while on final. When necessary, don't hesitate to go around. Wind shifts are common in Skagway. It's not unusual to see all three windsocks flying in different directions at the same time. The winds are known to shift unexpectedly. It is possible to get a reported wind from the south, only to be on final approach to runway 19 and have the wind suddenly come down the valley from the north. Winds are usually from the south at 17 to 25 knots, but have been known to exceed 30 knots in the summer. In winter months, severe winds can ground aircraft for days at a time. Departing from Skagway to Juneau off runway 19. After clearing the shoreline, turn to fly to the left of Taya Inlet and retrace your steps to Lena Point. Your first checkpoint on the return trip will be Taya Point. As you enter the Lynn Canal, you can see the Chilkat Inlet off to your right, which leads to Haines. Your next set of checkpoints will be Sullivan Island to your right and Eldred Rock Lighthouse. As you continue toward Juneau, you will see Berners Bay, Benjamin Island, Eagle Beach, Tea Harbor, and finally, Lena Point. Lena Point is the first reporting point into the Juneau Airport. The approach into Juneau requires vigilance because many aircraft will be approaching and departing the Juneau Airport and Float Pond area. Subsequent reporting points when approaching for runway 08 are Coghlan Island, then Battleship Island, if requested, the Cut, South Tip, and final approach. If you are interested in traveling to other locations in Alaska, please view the appropriate videotape.
Welcome back. Southerly winds only at 10 knots here on the south coast. Southeast at the same speed tomorrow. Seas 4 to 5 feet really laying down, and even lighter stuff here over the southern inside waters with Clarence Strait variable at 10, 2-foot seas. Otherwise 15 out of the south on up to the north. For Wednesday, just really kind of a light variable wind pattern here all along the coast. 10 knots or less, 5 knots on the south coast. Seas 3 to 5 feet, 3 to 4 feet. And northwesterlies on a very light northwest breeze, kind of just probably variable at 10 knots would cover it with seas 2 feet or less. And for Prince William Sound tomorrow, as well as the North Gulf Coast, variable winds at 10 knots with seas 2 to 4 feet. And that's about it. West 15 here for the Barren Islands or less on the wind with 3-foot seas. Variable winds Kodiak Island, Shelikof Strait, Kachemak Bay, and Southern Cook Inlet, south becoming southwest, but only 10 knots. And for the Cook Inlet forecast for Wednesday, southerlies, variable to southerlies. Southerlies in the afternoon, otherwise variable, at 10 knots with 3-foot seas. Light winds, light variable winds everywhere here for the Kodiak Island waters, Barren Islands, North Gulf Coast, into Prince William Sound, 10 knots or less with seas 2 to 4 feet. And for the Bristol Bay zone, west 15, otherwise light variable winds out here over the Alaska Peninsula as well. And northwest 15, though, from Castle Cape to Sitkinak with 4-foot seas. Outlook for Wednesday, swinging around to the southeast, but only coming up to about 10 knots for the Alaska Peninsula. But just to the west, stronger winds, though, and seas 3 to 4 feet. Light variable winds 15 here southwest of Kodiak and southwest 15 for Bristol Bay. Out in the Aleutians, southeast 15 to 20 knots for the Fox Islands tomorrow, and then those pick up to some areas seeing some small crafts on the north side of the chain there in those marine areas over to north of Adak, south 20. out to the west with 7 to 8 foot seas. And then for Wednesday, that front moves eastward here. Pretty obvious where it is, right through here, ahead of the front. Small craft advisories, pretty brisk winds, 25 as high as 30 knots, maybe some gale force gusts there coming across the Fox Islands. And seas 7 to 10 feet, 15 knots on out to the west to Shimmy and Attu. For the southwest coast, south of Nunivak Island, west at 15, north side, south 15, 20 knots for St. Lawrence Island, same thing here for St. Matthew, and southeast at 20 for the Pribilofs. And then the outlook for Wednesday, southeast coming up pretty good there. Again, that front coming in eastward here, so even small craft advisories developing along the southwest coast north of Nunivak Island, and 30 knots out of the south for St. Lawrence Island, with those seas building from 9 feet here at the Pribilofs all the way north towards St. Lawrence Island. And for the Arctic coast on the east side, northwest at 10, become east at 20, west at 20 on the eastern side. Otherwise, light variable winds here for much of the central coast going south 15, but picking up to 20 knots there from Cape Beaufort down to the Bering Strait. And then the outlook for Wednesday, south 30 knots, quite an increase taking place out here over these western zones. Even the western Arctic coast, south 25 knots, dropping back to 20 on the central coast, then variable 10 to 15 on eastward. For tonight, again, diminishing thunderstorms and showers over all of the eastern interior, some of those spreading all the way out to the eastern Arctic coast. Fair and dry in the west, low clouds, fog over the Bering Sea with a band of rain pushing to the central Aleutians. It stays wet and showery here for the southeast coast, and tomorrow that same sort of pattern, but to a lesser extent with a little bit drier conditions. More sun, south central Alaska, definitely warmer temperatures, and warmer and hotter the next day.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.